I'm delighted to deliver my fourth, but unfortunately my last Christmas message. Of course, the main event of 2014 was the election in September. I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate the new Premier, Don Romeo, and his team. It was an overwhelming victory and a very professionally planned and executed campaign. I would also like to pay tribute to the former Premier, the Honourable Reuben Mead, and his team, who led the previous administration very ably, and for all the work he and his team did for the good of Montserrat. The new government have been working hard in their first 3 months to begin to deliver the pledges set out in their manifesto. I wish them all the best in their efforts and will cooperate with them, as of course I would with any elected government. It is worth noting that this was the first election to be independently observed. We had a mission, a 4-man mission from the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, and I think it's worthwhile quoting from their final report. They said that the 2014 Legislative Assembly elections in Montserrat were vibrant, peaceful, and participatory. 31 candidates competed for 9 seats in a single constituency, and it resulted in a smooth transition of power. Polling was very diligently and effectively conducted. The count was exemplary, and it was undertaken with the utmost rigour and the highest possible levels of transparency. And I thought it was also very innovative with the website outside of the Cultural Centre with the running total of candidates throughout the night. And I want to take this opportunity to formally thank Sir Howard Fergus and his team at the Electoral Commission, and all the returning officers and tally clerks who worked long hours during the day and overnight, as the count was not concluded until 6 a.m. on Friday morning. During the year, we also celebrated the awarding of the MBE to Vereen Woolcock, and I want to thank her for her work in helping and supporting workers and supporting the community. We had a very successful visit of the Commonwealth Games baton in March. This followed on from the FIFA World Cup trophy in 2013. Virtually every child on the island got an opportunity to hold the baton. Montserrat is enthusiastic and serious about its sports, notwithstanding the limited facilities and resources that we have, and the small pool from which we can draw our athletes. I was proud that we sent a 4-man team to the Glasgow Games, and I think the whole country was. It reinforced the message that exercise and physical activity is both good in itself and good for the overall health of the population. On the 9th of October, we had a visit by James Duddridge, the Foreign Office Minister responsible for the overseas territories. He was only here for 8 hours, but it was a very productive visit and enabled the new Premier to build a relationship with him. It's notable that it was the first visit to Montserrat by an FCO minister since 2002. With all these Christmas messages, I always talk about the DFID programme and their contribution to the sustainable development of Montserrat. I thought it was worthwhile, particularly with the new government, before I talked about more recent developments, to set out what the overall financial assistance provided to Montserrat since the volcanic eruptions has amounted to. From 1996-97 to 2013-14, DFID has spent £392 million, an average of £22 million a year. Based on a rather generous average population size of 5,000, because of course the population varied in that period, this amounts to £78,400 per man, woman and child on Montserrat. In 2014, progress has included an improved ferry service, the completion of a new primary school at Lookout, and it is important to value and maintain it so that it delivers for the children of Montserrat for years to come. The completion of geothermal drilling and the approval of the drilling of a third well in order to maximise the resources that Montserrat has, and then to move on to transmission and distribution in 2016. On the debit side, there remain capacity gaps and their impact on government effectiveness and efficiency, in particular the need to more efficiently procure and manage projects. It's important to fill gaps to ensure the confidence of others in Government of Montserrat's systems and their functioning. And we must also remember and focus on maintaining existing and any new infrastructure. In relation to that, I was very pleased that we finally passed the Public Administration Bill in July, and we have a good performance management system in place. I have, in my time in Montserrat, detected some resistance to people coming in with solutions from outside. Some of those may be good, some of them may be bad, but we have to have an open mind to proposals for change. We now have the public sector reform program in a new phase, starting now, but really getting underway in January. And we have a new person in charge of that, Felicia Lynch, who I'm sure will become well known to all of you on the island. On the disaster management side, again, I'm really happy to report a year where the volcano has remained quiet and there has been no hurricanes. We should all be profoundly grateful for that. So there has been no significant activity from the volcano since February 2010. In response to this, the Cabinet and NDIPRAC have made further reductions to the hazard levels, which now allow 24-hour access to Zone C on an unmonitored basis. We continue to use the exclusion zone for economic activity, such as export of sand from Plymouth Jetty, and we are looking at the possibility of managed tourist trips in the near future. It was a quiet year, as I mentioned, for hurricanes, but we have worked on disaster management preparedness with various exercises and workshops during the year. We must try and avoid the complacency that inevitably sets in when nothing much happens. And for his tireless efforts, I would like to commend Billy Daru in that respect, because he does continue to work with all the government departments to try and improve their disaster preparedness and their plans, and we should commend that. We had a good visit by HMS Argyll in July and HMS Severn in the last few days. There has been good engagement with the community on both visits. I also wanted to mention a small project that we launched with the Montserrat National Trust last month, which was the Endangered Archives Project. Although it's a very small project, it's potentially very influential. It's starting to store historical documents electronically, and it's really important so that these documents can be made accessible easily, and to connect modern Montserratians with their history and heritage. The culture and values that we have are as important to us as and are very influential in the way that we would develop in the future. Just very recently, we have had 2 consultants on the island from the Lucy Faithfull Foundation who conducted a full child safeguarding review in the first 2 weeks of December. They worked very closely with the Department of Community Services, the police, the churches, the judiciary, and all other actors in trying to build up the picture of this on Montserrat. It built on the work that has been carried out, including several workshops carried out over the last 2 years. In their initial report, they said that on the plus side, there was good and general public acceptance that child abuse on Montserrat is wrong. However, there was wide acknowledgement that it does occur, and uncertainty on how most effectively to deal with it. But the unambiguous message I want to give here, and which was repeated to them, is that, of course, it is never possible for a child under 16 to give consent to anything in a legal manner and or in an informed manner. I'm particularly pleased that the penal code was amended in June to enable more appropriate, lengthier sentences to be imposed for offences of this type. The report of the consultants will be available towards the end of January, and I'm sure there will also be a public version of that which we can use to gather more support for a solution to ensure that every child is safe on Montserrat. Finally, I want to talk about the Joint Ministerial Commission that was held in London on the 2nd and 3rd of December, and which the Premier and his team attended. Like many family gatherings at Christmas, it was not without its tensions and squabbles around the table. But all finally agreed that the UK and the overseas territories have emerged stronger and relationships have been reinvigorated. For the Montserrat delegation, there was the opportunity for a bilateral discussion with the new DFID Minister Desmond Swayne and a day of talks with DFID in East Kilbride. There were also informal meetings with the Environment and Foreign Affairs Committee and a formal meeting with the International Development Committee to update them on how Montserrat has developed since their last report was published in 1999. I also just want to point to a few staffing changes that have occurred in the Governor's office. In September, we said farewell to Kato Kimbugwe, the DFID representative, and Mark Turner, the head of the Governor's office. And I want to take the opportunity to welcome Tony and Colette Bates, who have replaced Mark Turner, and Martin Dawson, who has replaced Kato. We all look forward to working with them, and they have been working very effectively since their arrival. This will be my last Christmas message. On current expectations, my wife and myself will leave Montserrat towards the end of June. So I would like to take the opportunity again to thank my wife, Suju, for all the work she has done in bringing the community together, the many events that she has hosted at our Government House, including the very successful Christmas Carol programme yesterday, and the coffee mornings that she has held throughout the year, which have not just been about drinking coffee, but informing and entertaining people about events that are relevant to Montserrat. I want to thank all members of the public service for all their work in trying to make Montserrat a sustainable and productive place in which to live. And so I'd like to give my wife and I's best wishes for Christmas and a happy and prosperous 2015. God bless Montserrat. Thank you all very much.